Welcome to Most Loved Wrestling, a place where wrestling is most loved. Survivor Series happened last night, which means we gotta do what all wrestling fans do best, talk about it. But before we do that, put a like on this video, subscribe to my bullshit, and hit the notification bell. It helps with the algorithm. So if you like what I'm doing and believe that the world deserves to bear witness, then this is how you can make it happen. So, what happened at Survivor Series? It kicked off with the Women's War Games match. The match was started by Bayley of Team Rhea Ripley and the WWE Women's Champion Nia Jax of Team Liv Morgan, which saw Nia Jax and her team dominate for the majority of the match. After a scintillating high-risk maneuver, Tiffany Stratton attempts to cash in Money in the Bank, but she doesn't know who to cash in on, as both champions were prone. She was caught thinking for too long, and she was stopped by Raquel Rodriguez, and Io ends up giving everyone smoke with a fire extinguisher. Io and Bayley almost had a run-in, because with all their history, any type of eye contact can turn into a beef thing. But before anything could happen, Nia Jax dropped both of them. Eventually, Team Rhea gets with the Nia Jax with a powerbomb through a table. So as you know, Io Sky is the #1 contender because she won a battle royal. But after an avalanche riptide for a second table, Rhea just pinned Liv Morgan, the reigning world champion. So how are we going to resolve this? Next is the United States Championship match between LA Knight and Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke has had 2 theme changes in 2 days. That's got to be a new record, and he's got a new entrance too. LA Knight blew the roof off the place. I don't know if they're pumping in noise, but if they're not, and this real sound, this man has definitely done well to maintain his ability to draw a reaction. After a reverse DDT on the metal plate that connects the 2 rings and a Kinshasa to the back of the cranium, we saw Shinsuke Nakamura become the new United States champion. After that was the triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship. Bron Breakker versus Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser. Bron Breakker has picked up the ability to fly. Ludwig needs to grow eyes in the back of his head, and Sheamus came so close to finishing the story before Ludwig Kaiser pulled the referee from the ring and then proceeds to absolutely abuse Sheamus with a shillelagh. But it was a spear for each man, which saw Bron Breakker retain his Intercontinental Championship. Next is the World Heavyweight Championship match. World Heavyweight Champion Gunther versus Damian Priest. Priest was in control early, and Gunther was struggling to establish himself and was all out of sorts until a freak shoulder injury turns the tide. Now with a big bullseye on the Punisher's body, the ring general could not miss. But Damian had way too much fight in him to go down easily, and although his shoulder gave out the first time, he was able to hit a razor's edge. A superplex attempt gets denied by Priest, but at the cost of popping his shoulder out in the process. Whilst the official checks on the champion, Finn Balor uses this opportunity to hit a coup de grace from the steps on Damian Priest. This time, Gunther doesn't want any asterisks next to his W, so he handles it by kicking the features off of Finn and finishing Damian with a powerbomb into an arm-in sleeper hold to retain his World Heavyweight Championship. Now it's time for the Men's War Games match. Tama is wild, scaling the cage during the entrances like a mad hat. CM Punk antagonizes Bronson Reed and Jacob Fatu, and it's going to be Jey Uso and Tama Tonga to start the match. Jimmy Uso comes out second and he's got new moves. Roman decides to pull rank on CM Punk, stopping him from entering the match third and sending Sammy in his place. Then when Roman was about to enter fourth for his team, Punk gets him back by pushing past him, and according to the commentary booth, embarrassing the tribal chief. When Solo enters the match, he gets in the cage and locks it behind him with his own locking key, forcing Roman to have to climb and fight his way through the new bloodline in order to enter the match. He even has to bust out a crossbody. Once he single-handedly neutralized the new bloodline, he goes to rally his troops, but purposely denied to acknowledge Punk. They're about to be at each other's necks, which is when Paul Heyman arrives at ringside to remind them that the tribal chief and the best in the world together is what War Games needs. Roman accidentally spears CM Punk when sidestepped by Solo Sikoa, and it almost costs them the match. Roman Reigns is down on the table and is about to eat a top of the cage tsunami, but believe it or not, he's saved by CM Punk, leaving Big Bronson Reed to crash and burn through the table on his solo. No pun intended. And finally, Roman extends his hand to CM Punk, with Punk accepting the olive branch, and then returns the favour by saving CM Punk with a Superman punch. The Usos manage to get the better of the Samoan werewolf and drop him with a 1D. But to keep him down permanently, Jimmy Uso decides to sacrifice himself with a Uso splash from the top of the cage. The OGs regroup to finish the match and have Solo at checkmate for once. But he refuses to surrender to Roman and decides to go out on his shield and go on the offensive, but is stopped in his tracks by a double super kick, followed by a Helluva kick into a GTS, and finally put down by a spear, allowing Roman to get the 3 count, meaning the Bloodline OGs win War Games. My thoughts on the show: for some reason, Michael Cole thinks Naomi is Tiffany Stratton, and it's Naomi's birthday. You should have some respect. Happy belated to Naomi. I don't know what it is, but in the Women's War Game match, everyone seemed to be clunky and it's like it all changed when Bianca and Tiffany Stratton entered the match. I don't know if it was the spots throwing everybody off, but it really felt like nothing was landing properly. It did eventually clean itself up as more of the competitors entered the ring, and by the time it was over, it was another good War Games match. But I would probably say it was the weakest one I had seen up until this point. If you think I'm bugging, let me know in the comments, but be respectful, because you know, I got them hands. I think that they made the right decision on Shinsuke defeating LA Knight to become the new United States champion. For me, it was either this or shenanigans. I think Shinsuke straight up losing to LA Knight, it would have killed his new gimmick instantly, especially when you add it to the knowledge that we already got of Shinsuke in his last few rivalries. It would have been a complete burial to make him lose. I'm just glad to see Shin win something, and LA Knight can get it back anytime. So I hope no one thinks that this means anything negative to Knight's career. The only shock to me is the fact that he lost clean. I was thinking that he was going to use the mist again or something, but nope, just a clean victory for Shinsuke Nakamura. But trust me, LA Knight's career is fine, and congratulations to the new United States champion. Ludwig is now getting the type of matches he deserves. This was a physical match as you would expect, and I loved this match. I prefer the triple threats when it's constantly got all three men in at one time, but don't get me wrong, it's not a big issue when it doesn't. It was a great triple threat match, and once again, the right man won. At this point, I feel like Sheamus should finish his story at Mania or something. You know, I'm just saying that and realizing how uncreative that sounded. Now, is it just me, or did the rest of you kind of sigh when you saw Finn Balor appear to once again screw over Priest? But it was obvious that it was going to happen. Finn's been obsessed with the fact that Damien won the #1 contenders match, and he's been constantly throwing shade at Dominic Mysterio. If he did nothing, it would have made all the noise he's been making pointless. But where does this land us now? Is this going to turn into a three-way rivalry? Finn, Priest, and the World Heavyweight Champion Gunther? That can't go wrong, and at least it's not Finn and Priest 1v1. Whoever shouted, Tangaloa sucks, and whoever else said, I second that, fuck you, bruv. Tangaloa is the tribal chief, and you better stop all that noise immediately. I mean it. Put some respect on his name. Unfortunately, he didn't botch anything today. Well, he kind of struggled to get the table in the ring, but I don't know if that counts as a botch. But either way, Tangaloa's a general, and it was a special thing seeing the Usos utilizing all their double team moves again. And right now, even though they managed to coexist, I feel like CM Punk versus Roman is a must. Punk just makes any rivalry look so tantalizing. We still need him versus Seth. Seeds were planted for him and Cena, and now we also need him and Roman. Punk's a master of the game, a real master of the game, setting up his rivalries months in advance. But of course we can't give him all the credit. He has got some competent dance partners, and I'm pretty sure Roman and Punk is not happening for now, because I believe the next stop for Roman is Solo Sikoa 1v1. They're probably going to put a stipulation on it, going to call it tribal combat, or it might even be bloodline rules. This whole show was straightforward. I did think that something was going to happen, like a return or a betrayal, some type of mistake of a great magnitude, but no, just straight up wrestling with straight up victors. The most fugazi finish was the World Heavyweight Championship match, and that one wasn't even really that bad. But even without a bunch of events to go away and talk about, that was a great show. It did exactly what it needed to do, nothing more, nothing less. And now it's time for them MVPs. Now this one may be controversial to some of you, but at number 5, I'm putting Nia Jax. Yeah, you guys can pick up the pitchforks and come for me. I don't really care. She just wrestled a good match. She was the Iron Lady alongside Bayley, and even though Ian and Tiffany Stratton had the high-risk moment, I feel like Nia Jax's body of work throughout this match was enough to get her into this position. In 4th place, I'm going with Shinsuke Nakamura. He righted the wrongs of 2023, and he is the new United States Champion. That's three-time United States Champion, and it's about time Shin won something. I didn't have any faith in him, but I am glad to be wrong. Definitely 110% the right decision. Now LA Knight, he can chase and regain, which as a babyface, he's going to be better in that position anyway. In 3rd spot, I'm going with Bron Breakker. This man is just an absolute weapon. He displayed so much freakish athleticism throughout the duration of this bout, and somehow attained flight powers. And then he went on to retain his Intercontinental Championship. What can I say? Good shit. In 2nd place, I'm going with CM Punk. Him and Roman could not get along. They kept pulling big dick moves on one another, trying to establish dominance early for when they have their proper rivalry later on. And I was on the edge of my seat, waiting for a betrayal, if we can call it that. Even though it didn't happen, it is fine, because that was the whole point of the sit-down conversation on SmackDown. It added this element to the match. Will they be able to put their differences aside for War Games, or will their ego make them fall to Solo Sikoa? And finally, the MVP of the show, Roman Reigns. Listen, All the same things I said for Punk can obviously apply here to Roman Reigns, because he's the other piece of that equation, and he's one step closer to regaining the Ulafala by pinning Solo and winning War Games. And to be honest, we low-key got to big up the whole of the bloodline and give an honourable mention to Paul Heyman too. But congrats to the OTC on being the MVP of Survivor Series War Games. Let us know who you think deserves to be MVP and what you liked about Survivor Series. But that's all I've got for you today. Thank you for listening to my bullshit. Don't forget to leave a like. Remember to subscribe and leave your thoughts in the comment section down below.